Imagine a bright, ambitious young woman venturing into a new country, with dreams glittering in her eyes, only to cross paths with a man destined to become Japan's most notorious criminal. This is not a script from a thriller movie, but the chilling reality of Lindsay Hawker's life. How did her journey intertwine with Tatsuya Ichihashi's dark path? Let's unravel the tragic tale that shook Japan and captured global attention. Background of Lindsay Hawker. In the heart of England, a young woman named Lindsay Ann Hawker blossomed with aspirations that reached far beyond the borders of her home country. Born on December 30th, 1984 in Coventry, Lindsay was not just another face in the crowd. She was a beacon of ambition and intelligence. Her family, rooted in the quaint Warwickshire, nurtured her aspirations with love and pride. Lindsay's father, Bill, a driving instructor, and her mother, Julia, saw in her not just a daughter, but a young woman with an unquenchable thirst for knowledge and adventure. Lindsay's academic journey was nothing short of impressive. Her intellect shone brightly at King Henry VIII School in Coventry, where she not only excelled in her studies but also became a beloved figure among her peers. It wasn't just her academic prowess that made her stand out, it was her vibrant personality, a blend of kindness, determination, and a zest for life that drew people towards her. After completing her schooling, Lindsay's passion for the sciences led her to the University of Leeds. Here, she majored in biological sciences, a field that quenched her curiosity about the world and its intricate workings. Her time at the university was marked by hard work and academic excellence, culminating in her graduating with honors, a testament to her dedication and intellect. But Lindsay was more than just her academic accomplishments. She was a young woman with dreams that extended beyond the confines of laboratories and lecture halls. She harbored a deep desire to explore the world, to immerse herself in cultures different from her own, and to leave a mark wherever she went. It was this desire that set her on a path far from home, to a land steeped in history, culture, and mystery: Japan. The allure of Japan was irresistible to someone like Lindsay. It promised a fusion of ancient traditions and cutting-edge modernity, a place where she could not only teach but also learn, grow, and expand her horizons. In mid-2006, she made a decision that would be a pivotal point in her life. She decided to put her plans for a master's degree on hold and embark on an adventure that would take her halfway across the world. Lindsay's choice to move to Japan wasn't just a whim. It was a calculated step towards personal and professional growth. Upon her arrival in Japan, Lindsay dove headfirst into her new life. She joined Nova, a large private English teaching company, which gave her the opportunity to utilize her skills and passion for teaching. Her assignment took her to Koiwa, a district in the bustling city of Tokyo. Here, Lindsay found herself in a vibrant world, a stark contrast to the quiet streets of Warwickshire. Lindsay's ability to adapt and thrive in new environments was remarkable. She quickly settled into her role as a teacher, earning the respect and admiration of her students and colleagues alike. Her days were filled with teaching, exploring, and soaking in all that Japan had to offer. She lived in a shared apartment, an arrangement that not only made financial sense, but also provided her with companionship in a foreign land. But it wasn't all about work and exploration. Lindsay maintained a strong connection with her roots back in England. She stayed in touch with her loving family, a wide circle of friends, and a boyfriend, communicating through letters, social media, and phone calls. Despite the physical distance, her heart remained firmly anchored in the warmth of her home. As 2007 dawned, Lindsay continued to embrace her life in Japan with open arms. However, unknown to her, the threads of her fate were about to intertwine with those of a man whose name would soon be etched into the annals of Japan's criminal history: Tatsuya Ichihashi. This encounter, seemingly innocuous at first, would lead to a series of events that would not only shatter the tranquility of her life, but also send ripples across continents, forever changing the lives of many. Tatsuya Ichihashi, the Pursuer. In the dense fabric of Tokyo's urban sprawl, a figure lurked in the shadows, an individual whose name would soon become synonymous with one of Japan's most chilling criminal cases. Tatsuya Ichihashi, born on January 5, 1979, in the city of Ichikawa, Chiba Prefecture, presented a life that was a stark contrast to that of Lindsay Hawker. Ichihashi's background was not one of hardship or destitution. He was the son of a wealthy and respectable family. His father was a prominent local doctor, and his mother a dentist. From the outside, it seemed Ichihashi was poised for a life of success, mirroring the achievements of his parents. However, beneath this facade lay a troubled individual whose path would lead to infamy. Growing up, Ichihashi showed signs of being reclusive and somewhat rebellious. Despite the opportunities afforded by his family's status, he struggled academically and socially. His ambition to follow in his father's footsteps to become a doctor was shattered when he failed university entrance exams. This failure marked a turning point in Ichihashi's life, leading him away from the path of academic and professional achievement that his family had laid out for him. Instead of pursuing further education, Ichihashi found himself adrift, with no clear direction or purpose. He spent his days aimlessly, often indulging in long bicycle rides that seemed to be his only escape from a life of unfulfilled expectations. He frequented a local gym, perhaps as a way to channel his frustrations and seek some form of accomplishment. But behind this routine of physical activity lurked a deeper unrest, a brewing storm of instability and erratic behavior. Ichihashi's interactions with others were marked by oddities and social awkwardness. He was known among acquaintances for his withdrawn nature and his lack of intent to seek regular employment, raising eyebrows in a society that values industriousness and conformity. This detachment from societal norms was a red flag, an early indication of his descent into a more troubled state of mind. As Ichihashi approached his late 20s, the financial support from his parents ceased, adding to his sense of aimlessness and failure. He lived in an apartment owned by his family, a semblance of stability in his otherwise unstructured life. But the cessation of support from his parents was perhaps the final nudge that sent Ichihashi spiraling into a world of isolation and, eventually, criminality. It was during this turbulent phase of his life that Ichihashi's path crossed with Lindsay Hawker's. Their encounter was not a matter of chance, but the result of a calculated move by Ichihashi. He had first noticed Lindsay on a train and was captivated by her, a fascination that quickly turned into an obsession. He followed her, gathering details about her life, a silent predator stalking his unsuspecting prey. Ichihashi's obsession with Lindsay was not just a fleeting attraction, it was a fixation that consumed him. He learned about her work as an English teacher and used this information to orchestrate a meeting. The day he approached Lindsay at the train station, introducing himself under the pretense of being a potential student, marked the beginning of a tragic sequence of events. His behavior was strange and unnerving, traits that Lindsay, with her keen sense of awareness, couldn't ignore. Yet, in a twist of fate, Lindsay, ever the kind-hearted and helpful individual, agreed to teach Ichihashi English, unaware of the dark intentions lurking beneath his seemingly innocuous request. This decision, made in good faith, unknowingly set the stage for a harrowing tale of pursuit, obsession, and ultimately, tragedy. The fatal encounter. March 2007 in Tokyo, a city bustling with life and dreams, was about to witness a turn of events so grim it would leave an indelible scar on its history. This was the month when Lindsay Hawker's journey in Japan intersected fatally with Tatsuya Ichihashi's dark obsessions. Lindsay's life in Japan had become a routine of teaching, exploring, and enjoying her newfound independence. She was settling into the rhythm of Tokyo, a city that never sleeps. Yet she retained her innate sense of caution, always mindful of the unfamiliar surroundings. On a seemingly ordinary day, Lindsay's path crossed with Ichihashi at a train station near her home. The encounter was unsettling. Ichihashi approached her, claiming to be a potential student who had seen her teaching at the language school. Lindsay, caught off guard but ever polite, found herself engaged in a conversation she hadn't anticipated. Ichihashi's demeanor was oddly persistent, his interest in English lessons seemingly innocent yet tinged with an underlying intensity that Lindsay couldn't quite place. As Ichihashi followed Lindsay on her bike, a sense of unease grew within her. The streets of Chiba, usually a maze of safety and anonymity, now felt threatening. Despite her attempts to lose him, Ichihashi remained a persistent shadow, trailing her all the way to her apartment. His request for English lessons seemed benign, but Lindsay's intuition whispered warnings. In a decision marked by kindness but overshadowed by naivety, Lindsay agreed to give him a private English lesson. This agreement would prove to be a fatal error. They scheduled to meet at a local cafe, a public place which Lindsay thought would be safe. On the fateful day of March 25, 2007, Lindsay met Ichihashi at the cafe, the air filled with the usual bustle of customers and the aroma of coffee. What transpired over the next few hours seemed like a regular tutoring session, but as the lesson concluded, a bizarre twist unfolded. Ichihashi, feigning forgetfulness, claimed he had left his wallet at his apartment and asked Lindsay to accompany him to retrieve the payment for the lesson. In an ill-fated moment of trust, Lindsay agreed to go with him, unaware of the horror that awaited her. They reached Ichihashi's apartment, a place that would soon turn into a crime scene. What exactly transpired within those walls remains a matter of conjecture, but the aftermath was nothing short of horrific. Lindsay, an innocent young woman full of dreams and aspirations, met with an untimely and brutal end at the hands of a man she had only sought to help. Ichihashi's twisted motives, whether rooted in rejection, obsession, or a deeper psychological disturbance, manifested in the most heinous manner. The discovery of Lindsay's lifeless body days later shook not just her family and friends, but also the entire nation of Japan. She was found buried in a bathtub filled with sand and soil on Ichihashi's apartment balcony, a gruesome attempt to conceal his crime. The brutality inflicted upon her was a stark and chilling testament to the savagery of her attacker. Lindsay's murder was not just a loss of a precious life. It was a shattering of the trust and safety that she, like many foreigners, had placed in the land they chose to explore and embrace. The incident raised alarming questions about the vulnerability of individuals in foreign lands and the hidden dangers lurking beneath seemingly benign encounters. The fallout from this fatal encounter was profound. Ichihashi, realizing the gravity of his actions, fled the scene, setting off a manhunt that would captivate and horrify the nation. Lindsay's family, thousands of miles away in England, was left to grapple with a tragedy beyond comprehension, their lives forever altered by a senseless act of violence. The discovery and aftermath. The disappearance of Lindsay Hawker in late March 2007 sent ripples of concern through her circle of friends, colleagues, and most agonizingly, her family back in England. When she failed to return to her apartment and subsequently missed work, a sense of foreboding enveloped those who knew her. Lindsay, known for her responsibility and communication, had suddenly and inexplicably vanished. The grim reality began to unfold on the morning of March 26, 2007, when Japanese police were alerted to Lindsay's disappearance. Initially, the police treated it as a standard missing person case. However, the discovery of a trail leading to Tatsuya Ichihashi's apartment swiftly escalated the situation. Upon reaching Ichihashi's residence, the police found themselves before a door that veiled the horrifying truth. With no response from inside and mounting suspicions, the police, along with the building's manager, entered the apartment. What they encountered was a scene that would haunt even the most seasoned investigators. In a chilling revelation, Lindsay's body was discovered on the balcony, buried in a shallow grave of sand and compost within a bathtub. The horror of the scene was palpable. Lindsay had been bound, gagged, and brutally assaulted. The brutality inflicted upon her was a grim testament to the savagery of her attacker. The apartment itself bore signs of a struggle, suggesting Lindsay's desperate fight for survival in her final moments. The shock of the discovery reverberated across Japan and back to the UK. Lindsay's family, receiving the news of her tragic end, was plunged into an abyss of grief and despair. The Hawker family was confronted with a nightmare scenario: a loved one lost, not to natural causes, but to a brutal and senseless crime in a foreign land. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Ichihashi had planned his escape meticulously. He fled his apartment just before the police arrived, leaving behind his backpack in a rush. This backpack became a crucial piece of evidence, containing items that would later be used to track him down. The Japanese media, both national and local, picked up the story with a fervor that reflected the shock and horror of the public. The case not only highlighted the brutality of the crime, but also raised questions about the safety of foreign nationals in Japan and the effectiveness of the Japanese police in handling such cases. Back in the UK, the Hawker family faced an outpouring of sympathy from a public equally shocked by the news. Tributes poured in for Lindsay, remembering her as a bright, ambitious, and kind-hearted individual whose life was cruelly cut short. The family, grappling with their loss, sought answers and justice, a quest that would take them on a harrowing journey across continents. The aftermath of Lindsay's murder saw the initiation of one of Japan's most extensive manhunts. Ichihashi, now a prime suspect, had vanished, leaving behind few clues as to his whereabouts. The Japanese police, under intense public scrutiny and pressure from the international community, launched a full-scale operation to find him. This manhunt would become a relentless pursuit, spanning over 2.5 years, involving hundreds of officers and multiple sightings across Japan. Lindsay's murder also sparked a broader conversation about the safety of foreign workers in Japan, particularly those in the English teaching community. It highlighted the vulnerabilities faced by young, inexperienced foreigners in a country where they often had limited support networks. In the UK, the Hawker family became advocates for victims of overseas crimes, channeling their grief into a fight for justice for Lindsay. Their journey was marked by frustration, hope, and a relentless drive to ensure that the perpetrator of this heinous crime was brought to justice. The manhunt begins. The disappearance and subsequent murder of Lindsay Hawker in March 2007 initiated one of the most intensive and publicized manhunts in Japanese history. Tatsuya Ichihashi, the prime suspect in this heinous crime, had vanished into the dense urban landscape of Japan, triggering a nationwide search that would captivate and frustrate both the public and law enforcement for years. In the immediate aftermath of the discovery of Lindsay's body, the Japanese police were under immense pressure. The intensity of the crime, combined with the victim being a foreign national, brought an international spotlight to the case. Ichihashi's escape, seemingly a step ahead of the police, added to the urgency and complexity of the manhunt. The first phase of the search focused on Ichihashi's known haunts and connections. Police scoured his apartment for clues, delved into his background, and interrogated acquaintances. However, Ichihashi, aware that he was the prime suspect, had meticulously planned his escape, leaving behind minimal traces. As days turned into weeks, the trail seemed to grow cold. Ichihashi had seemingly vanished into thin air, his whereabouts a mystery. The Japanese media continuously reported on the case, with Ichihashi's image plastered across news outlets, urging the public to come forward with any information. Despite these efforts, leads were scarce, and the frustration among investigators and the public grew. The manhunt revealed the lengths to which Ichihashi went to evade capture. He traversed the length and breadth of Japan, from Aomori in the north to the southern island of Okinawa. His survival skills, honed through his love of outdoor activities, aided him in living off the grid. He took on menial jobs under assumed identities and avoided places where he might be recognized. One of the most shocking aspects of Ichihashi's evasion was his resort to self-mutilation to alter his appearance. He underwent a series of painful and crude procedures on himself, including cutting off his own moles and altering his nose and lips to avoid recognition. This act of desperation underscored the lengths he was willing to go to remain at large and the depth of his detachment from reality. The public's involvement in the manhunt was unprecedented. Tips and sightings flooded in from across the country. Some claimed to have seen him in the neon-lit streets of Tokyo's red light districts, others in remote rural areas. Each lead was meticulously followed by the police, but more often than not, they led to dead ends. As months turned into years, the case began to weigh heavily on the Hawker family. Their pain was compounded by the feeling of injustice, as the man responsible for their daughter's death remained free. They made several trips to Japan, appealing to the public and working closely with the Japanese police, determined to keep Lindsay's case in the public eye. The prolonged nature of the manhunt also raised questions about the effectiveness of the Japanese police force. Criticisms were leveled at the initial handling of the case and the apparent ease with which Ichihashi had evaded capture. The pressure on the police intensified, both domestically and internationally, to bring the elusive suspect to justice. In October 2008, nearly a year and a half after Lindsay's murder, the manhunt escalated. The Japanese police, in an unprecedented move, deployed over 140 officers to the case, underscoring their commitment to capturing Ichihashi. The reward for information leading to his arrest was also increased, reflecting the high priority of the case. Capture and trial. After a relentless and tumultuous manhunt that spanned over 2.5 years, the pursuit of Tatsuya Ichihashi, Japan's most elusive fugitive, reached its climax in a dramatic turn of events. The capture of Ichihashi not only marked a significant breakthrough in the case of Lindsay Hawker, but also brought a semblance of closure to her bereaved family and a nation shaken by this chilling saga. The breakthrough came unexpectedly on November 10, 2009. Ichihashi, whose appearance had been drastically altered through self-inflicted surgeries, was apprehended at a ferry terminal in Osaka. His attempt to escape to Okinawa came to an abrupt end when a vigilant member of the public, who noticed his suspicious behavior and appearance, alerted the authorities. The police swiftly responded, and within moments, Ichihashi was in custody, ending his prolonged evasion of the law. Ichihashi's arrest was a moment of profound relief and vindication for the Japanese police force. It was a testament to their perseverance and the effectiveness of their nationwide appeal for information. However, for Lindsay's family, the capture brought a mix of emotions: relief that the man responsible for their daughter's death was finally apprehended, but also the painful resurgence of memories of the tragedy. The trial of Tatsuya Ichihashi commenced on July 4, 2011, amidst intense media coverage and public interest. The world watched as the man who had become a symbol of evasion and brutality stood before the court. The charges against him were grave: murder, abandonment of a corpse, and rape resulting in death. Ichihashi's defense was a point of significant interest, especially considering his actions following the murder. During the trial, Ichihashi's narrative of events was scrutinized. He admitted to causing Lindsay's death but claimed it was accidental. He portrayed himself as panicked and remorseful, asserting that his actions post the murder were driven by fear and confusion. This account, however, was met with skepticism, particularly given the brutal nature of Lindsay's death and the calculated efforts Ichihashi had made to evade capture. The prosecution presented a compelling case, highlighting the premeditation, cruelty, and the extreme measures taken by Ichihashi to conceal his crime and escape justice. They painted a picture of a man driven by obsession and a lack of regard for human life, whose actions had caused irreparable damage to a young woman and her family. The trial was not just a legal proceeding, it was a platform where the impact of the crime on Lindsay's family and friends was poignantly conveyed. Their testimonies and impact statements provided a heart-wrenching account of the loss and pain inflicted by Ichihashi's actions. The emotional weight of their words resonated not just in the courtroom, but across the nation and beyond. After an intense and emotionally charged trial, the verdict was delivered on July 21, 2011. Tatsuya Ichihashi was found guilty on all charges and sentenced to life imprisonment. The verdict, while not bringing back Lindsay, was a moment of justice, a confirmation that her death had not been in vain. The trial and its outcome sparked a broader discussion in Japan and internationally about the safety of foreigners, the efficiency of the justice system, and the psychological factors driving such heinous crimes. It also raised questions about the treatment of suspects and the balance between the right to a fair trial and the public's need for justice. For the Hawker family, the conclusion of the trial was a bittersweet moment. While justice was served, it did little to fill the void left by Lindsay's untimely death. The trial, in its pursuit of justice, had brought to light the depth of their loss and the enduring impact of Lindsay's life and legacy. The capture and trial of Tatsuya Ichihashi closed a dark chapter in Japan's criminal history, but the story of Lindsay Hawker continues to resonate as a reminder of the fragility of life and the enduring pursuit of justice in the face of unimaginable tragedy.